our 14th series, Humanizing Innovation at MMU Virtual Webinar Series. I am super excited to welcome you here. Excited about all the amazing conversation that we are going to have today. Thank you for sparing us your time to be with us. Great. Before we begin, before I tell you who the speakers are and what exactly they're going to say, please do give us a like, click love button, and if you happen to watch via this Facebook stream, please share it and subscribe also to our YouTube page. For your information, this seminar is being simultaneously broadcast live in our Facebook and YouTube MMU Malaysia. We do appreciate if you could share this session with your colleagues and friends. Thank you. So 5, 10, 30 years ago, I never could have imagined that I will be moderating and handling a fully virtual webinar series and speaking to my guest speakers who physically located at other states, and in which I don't even get a chance to hear clap when I next introduce my guests. I am Dr. Her Osman, Chairperson of Intelligence System and Process Group, one of the few research cluster of the Center of Engineering Computational Intelligence, or in short, CECI, at Faculty of Engineering and Technology, MMU, who is the co-organizer of this seminar, together with the Industrial Collaboration and Engagement Center, ICEC. On behalf of the organizer, I would like to welcome all of you. I will be moderating the session, and in the meantime, we also warmly welcome and encourage participation from the public. If you have any question to the speakers, comments, or if you want to share thought with us, you may use the chat box provided. It's not a promise, but I will try my best to entertain your question. In the next 1 hour and 15 minutes, we will have an eye-catching, surely an enjoyable discussion with our speakers on the topics of intelligent mobility in sustainable and inclusive urban development. By doing so, we hope at the end we could understand better on the role of smart mobility in building a sustainable and inclusive urban development. Perhaps we will hear some unique stories of challenges and strategies via personal journeys of our speakers. With me today in the virtual studio are 3 distinguished speakers. Let me just briefly introduce them. Our first speaker is Mr. Maxley, a founder of Hexen Data, Sendirian Berhad. Okay, he had 5 years experience in tech industry. He is the person behind Just Night application and intelligent mobility solution, which is developed to encourage a rewarding experience between bus drivers and passengers, I think in Petaling Jaya. Our second speaker is Mr. Kennedy Y. Chiyong. He had a very impressive achievement under his belt at such a young age. Mr. Kennedy graduated from National Chiao Tung University, NCTU, Taiwan, majoring in electrical and computer engineering, robotic and automation. He had a massive 7 years experience in autonomous driving, robotic development, and service autonomous robotic field. Last speaker of our own is Dr. Poh Ping, who has served as a lecturer at the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, MMU, since 2011. Dr. is also the chairperson of Intelligent Mobility Special Interest Group at CECI, hence the right person, I believe, to share with us about our topic today from academia perspective. So let us welcome 3 speakers here. Great. Let we move on to our topic of discussion. To start with, to give a context to our topic today, right? Cities worldwide are undergoing a digital transformation, a technological trend widely known as smart cities that is changing how we interact with the world around us. The idea is to modernize urban living spaces, making them hyper-connected from the infrastructure out and consolidating data for more productive and efficient living and mobility. Smart cities are characterized by initiatives driven by technology and data gathering to enhance living conditions through cost-effective and sustainable growth. By digitalizing routine service, cities and organizations can tackle everything from the environmental matters, government policy, economy, society, the overall quality of life, and mobility. So to do so, cities depend on a network of connected devices, or what we call IoT, Internet of Things, vehicles and home appliances that interact and exchange data with one another for the effective and efficient management of service and operation. These include everything from traffic light management to air quality monitoring and tracking of different modes of transportation. So fast forward, mobility solutions are at the forefront of the shift of smartification, not least because of the exponential population growth and the pressing need to overcome the challenges that this bring about. As cities become the new normal and urbanization continues to expand, issues such as congestion, carbon dioxide CO2 emission, roadside fatalities, and a greater demand for urban mobility become an increasing priority. So Malaysia itself has launched its own blueprint of Intelligent Transport System, ITS, under the 11th Malaysian Plan, where smart mobility has been defined as one of the key aspects. Since then, Malaysia has started deploying an intelligent Internet of Things network in cities such as in Kuala Lumpur, Iskandar, Malaysia, Johor, Smart Selangor, and Putrajaya Smart City that incorporated IoT, cloud computing, big data analytics, and spatial geographic information integration in order to promote smart city planning and management. So what is exactly intelligent mobility? What roles do we have to play in making it sustainable and inclusive in the context of urban development? Right, we had with us this morning, Mr. Mac. So again, before I proceed with my speakers, welcome again to those who just joined us. So we're just about to start with our first speaker. We had with us Mr. Mac, mechanical engineer, graduate from University Malaya, who enjoy playing chess and strategy games in his leisure time. Looking into his portfolio, I guess SimCity is one of his favorite games, perhaps. So Mr. Mac, hi and welcome to our seminar. Mr. Max, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. A highly connected system of smart vehicles that provide immediate real-time information that make commuting, and effortless tasks, plus an integrated mobility platform seamlessly connect all transport modes and allows for a simpler billing process and modern mobility focused on emission-free transport, advanced parking solution, and greater accessibility. So that's what people define smart mobility. And it sounds too complex for me. So to say this involves so many stakeholders when we start talking about building a sustainable, inclusive urban community. There are government and local council that should revisit their existing policies and infrastructure to see how it fits to the new ecosystem. There are industrial players and technopreneurs just like you, Mr. Mac, that look forward not only to gain profit, I believe, but also offering an integrated network of seamless and enjoyable services and products. And finally, inclusive urban development means that the smart mobility solution does not marginalize each and every citizen, make it whether they are rich or underprivileged, whether they are healthy or even public with less ability. So I believe, Max, you are the best person to talk about this on the concept of intelligent mobility. So Hexen Data of yours has been a key player, providing improvement and affordable solution. If any audience, if any of you are from Petaling Jaya, hands up. So I am introducing you to Max, the guy behind Just Night Apps, which has been implemented since 2017, as he said. So Max, can you give first insight of what smart mobility means to you in a layman term that we all can understand, and share with us how complex the challenges are as you and Hexen Data endeavor a journey to build a sustainable, livable city. Over to you, Max.
Okay, a very good morning to everybody. Thank you, Dr. Kiel, for the introduction. Thank you, all the participants and MMU as well for inviting me as one of the speakers. Dr. M. Kennedy, I'm looking forward to your presentation next. Back to the definitions of what today we want to talk about is that before we even go further is that today I can assure you at the end of my presentations, you are able to bring back valuable inputs about how you can participate in becoming part of the smart city movement. So let's come back to the definitions. Mobility, right? Basically, you need to ask yourself why you need to move around. That's as simple as that. We move around because we want to go, we want to find food. We are doing this to fulfill our basic needs, our basic purposes, to find job, to look for mate, to fulfill our spiritual obligations, and so on. So these actually define our purposes in life, and that's why we move. And next slides. Yeah, next slide. Right, next slide as well. So how I see movement is that I see it as flow of the people in a city, and I see flow of information and I also see the flow of goods, which is basically parcel delivery. And I'm sure Mr. Kennedy later can explain more about his little robots there that do delivery. And lastly, I see it as transportation of waste. So these are the four categories that I personally define as crucial to a city development. And these four things must move efficiently in a very cost-effective manner so that we can actually have a so-called smart city. Next slide. And next, we want to talk about, just now we talk about mobility, and now we want to know why intelligent matters. I think these pictures can describe everything in every possible way. Looking at this picture is that you can see is that one bus can actually fit so many cars, and that itself is sustainable. It carries the meaning of sustainable. You don't want to cram your whole city with too many objects, and you cannot keep on expanding routes in a very limited land as well. So therefore, you need proper planning. You need efficient transportation systems, and it also carries the meaning that it is financially much more making sense to people, to certain peoples, that it is actually affordable for them, and that actually carries the meaning of inclusive because it's actually accessible to all walks of life, whether you are old or you are young to the old, or you are physically impaired, or you are actually a rich or a poor. You can actually access to the same services as the rest of your peers. And next slide. So when it comes to the topic of implementing smart mobility, it actually involves costs as well, and therefore we need to actually weigh the pros and cons and the different options that we are being presented, or to say all the city leaders are being presented with all the options, and eventually is that we need to actually weigh against what are the costs to the people, costs to the planet. As we all becoming much more aware about our consequences, our actions can bring harm to the environment. We start to think much more about CO2 emissions, energy efficiency, and that's what you see right now. And lastly, of course, is it must be financially sustainable in order to justify for these adoptions. Next slide. So, and in fact, this smart cities framework, Malaysia smart cities framework, actually has smart mobility as one of the pillars as well. So you guys can take a look at it. Next slide. So why it matters now, right? I think that these pictures also explains all. Is because well, next slide. Well, it's because our lands are getting very limited, and we can see that more and more people are moving into urban areas, city centers, and again, land is scarce, and there are many issues happening around the world right now, and pandemic hit hard as well, and we actually being presented with huge challenge with very limited resources, and at the same time, we want to fulfill our responsibility in taking care of the earth, right? So yeah, so next slide. Next slide. So one of the topics that actually piqued my interest is mobility, or to say the congestion issues. And I always wonder why public transport cannot be made better, just like the rest of the, just like some of the advanced countries like Singapore, in Europe, or right. So I always curious about these questions, and I personally taking public transport in the past as well, and even right now sometimes. So there's one question that always piqued my curiosity, which is why not public transport reveal their timetable, reveal their real-time information. And next slide. And this actually, and coincidentally, I managed to be able to participate in a startup hackathons events back in 2014. And coincidentally, again, my idea about improving public transport won the heart of the judges, and we emerged as a champion. Next slide. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank my back then director of Center of Innovation and Commercializations, Professor Dr. Rofina Yasmin, who eventually saw the value of my idea, able to actually benefit the citizens a lot. And she actually granted me the grants to actually deploy the solution in the city. And in fact, before that, we actually deployed it at a ground as a pilot. Yeah, next slide. Then I started to look around, and one day my co-emir actually caught the attention of YB Yo, and she eventually made an introduction of me to Petaling Jaya City Council back somewhere in 2016. And after 1.5 years, actually, after like 18 months of engagement with them, and I eventually able to close the deal with Petaling Jaya in deploying this smart bus solution. Next slide. So yeah, that's something about my whole journey, and have been very grateful that I'm being surrounded by all the good people, my teammates, my investors, my clients have been giving us a lot of opportunities to grow together with them, because smart cities is still a very new concept, and you need not a vendor but innovators who is willing to take risks and also willing to go the extra miles to contribute to the development of smart bus solutions. So yeah, next slide. So yeah, this is us. We actually, company is called Hexon Data. We actually created Just Night and rebranded as Just Night just last year, September. We actually added a cashless component into our existing technology backbone because we saw that it is timely to actually launch this cashless component. Next slide. So our vision. Oh yeah. So our team is just we are a team of 4 people up to today. And next slides. Our vision has always been wanting to help a lot of these big and small bus operators to adopt digitizations and go cashless with our simple to use solution and simple to deploy. Next slide. So this is us. We have deployed our bus solutions in Petaling Jaya, over 30 plus rapid KL bus actually, but they are actually operated by Petaling Jaya, under the brand of Petaling Jaya PJ City Bus, free shuttle bus, and daily basis there are 20,000 daily riderships. Yeah, so we are actually very proud being able to be part of their journey as well as they being part of our journey. Next slides. So the problems that we are really solving here is that for those of you who really not really understand the industry here, this will be good for you to take attention, pay attention, because I'm about to let you know what is the problem of this industry. This industry is actually quite niche actually. The whole problem with just like I asked myself a question: why bus companies unable to publish their timetable? It is with these simple questions. And when I delve deeper into this industry, I realized that it is all because bus companies are unable to control their bus driver. That is really the root cause. And eventually this leads to low riderships, poor services, and what more. They are currently handling fare payment in cash basis, and it's actually subject to fare cheating by it could be fare cheating, or it could be accidents. It could be happen by accident as well. Basically, money loss due to cash handling, misappropriation of cash handling. Then, of course, bus drivers are also some as well. So we intend to step in. Next slide. We intend to step in by solving this problem. The current solution in the market is basically very costly. We are talking about like touch and go compliant ticket validators that is only accepting cards, and it cannot accept even your e-wallets, right? And these are expensive and it's single function and it is not integrating with any other components. It basically just do one thing, which is ticket validating, and it doesn't add value to operationals or even the client, or even the passenger side. Next slide. So what we intend to do here is that we want to offer a solution that is very, very affordable, and everything is in one and it's easy to deploy and it's fast to deploy. And what we advocate here is three strategies to our bus clients. One, go mobile, giving all the real-time information to the passengers. And second, go cashless, giving their passengers the convenience of making payment through just a single mobile app. Third is that making use of the data analysis that we generate for them to plan their operation better. Next slide. So very briefly is that the first component is basically just a journey planner that gives you the ability to check the arrival time, real time of the check the arrival timing, and as well as doing e-ticketing, paying your fare cashless through scanning of the QR code. So next slide. Then the second component is that we give next slide. Yes. Then the second component is that we give them tools to actually empower their bus drivers. We believe that all bus drivers are good drivers, but sometimes they're just careless, a bit careless. Therefore, we deploy a device that is acting as like a personal assistance to the drivers. Yeah. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, then the last component is basically just a dashboard that gives all the controls and monitoring, full visibility and control to the operator administrations. And they are able to also generate interesting reports that will be helpful for whether it's claims or whether it's for subsidies, applications, all can be done through this dashboard itself. Next slide. So eventually, our whole end game is to realize mobility as a service. For those of you who are new to this concept, mobility as a service is that it is a single window applications that aggregates different modes of travel, such as trains, bus, even micro mobilities, right, all into one place, and passengers can use it for trip planning and even for fare payment. And right now, we are currently working at one city at a time, and we want to onboard bus companies first, and then we slowly will move to other mode of travel, and beyond that, we will go even beyond Malaysia itself. But there's a catch here. Next slide. So these slides onwards will be very interesting for those of you who want to participate in smart city development, because it's not just my industry problems. It could be someone like Kennedy who is working on deploying robotics in the smart city. It could be Dr. M trying to convince the industry of his patents or his inventions or his algorithms, right? So this is actually very, very useful for anyone, whether you are science stream students or art stream students. So to make mobility as a service, or to say, to make smart city solutions happen in your city, you basically need two things. First is you need to have smart policy. It is a mindset that is very important. Your city leaders need to have that right mindset, and they must be able to be looking for good case practices, not biased to certain spec of certain brands. Right? The second is that your solutions that you use must be able to work with other solutions as well, or to say is interoperable, or to say is open for integration, right? So next slide. So, and words are very powerful. What you are seeing here is basically tender documents, request for proposal, RFQ, or RFP, or request for quotations, RFQ. These are documents that represents how government procures services from innovators or from solutions providers out there. And then we also have governments officials who, whether they do it themselves in-house or they hire consultants to write policies, frameworks, or passing laws, all those stuff, right? These are very important. They are the they are the fundamental building blocks of making smart city happen. And most of the times we need to actually look into very closely all the requirements that's given in the spec itself. And policy-wise, you will have to have a very comprehensive and policies that include all the players, whether it's citizens of all kinds of profile of citizens, or whether it is for the SME players. A government role is basically need to have the policy right in the first place. So next slide. So I compare this like that, right? If let's say the Starship is an ideal spec, ideal specification, right? And then let's say you are a city, you are a government who are procuring, you intend to procure a smart city solutions. What you have in mind is a hexagon, probably. You have that shape. And it's still a bit far from the ideal spec. And you need to actually be aware. First, you need to be aware that there is such an ideal spec out there, and you need to be open to it, right? And then to work towards that, it sometimes takes a few years, or even 10 or 20 years. We do not know, right? Smart city is not a new concept that just arises. City has been developing over time, and now we are trying to making use of better sensors with higher bandwidth. We're making use of more data points generated from all these sensors around our cities. We're making use of that. But most of the time is that the spec is wrong, right? The spec is not interoperable. Just imagine, right? Let's say your police guy want to catch a thief, and this thief was being captured by CCTV in a city. Let's say it's Subang Jaya, and now this whole CCTV in Subang Jaya, they are coordinated because they are by one supplier, right? One solution provider. But the thief is clever. He realized that if he actually managed to cross to Petaling Jaya, the whole CCTV system is not coordinating and they are not operating together, right? So once he crossed over there, the police basically have no clue where this thief is already. So these are what I think that why smart city, back to the smart city 101, all solutions must be interoperable and open to integration. And I believe that this is something very critically lack of right now. I have my personal story as well, even back in the day where I want to integrate GPS data from Rapid KL, Rapid Bus in Berhad. Their solutions are very complicated, as in they have different units, different companies taking care of different systems. So this actually adds complexity, and it takes time to even get buy-in, to just get the approval. And what more? My next slide. If let's say you deploy the wrong spec, you buy the wrong stuff. Basically, you buy the wrong stuff, right? Well, this is not like you go to the shopping mall and you buy the wrong stuff and then you go back to the shopping mall and buy another stuff again, right? We are talking about solution that is legally binded with a contract of certain years, certain durations. And most of the times the spec is defined. It was defined at the time where the person who do the procurement have no full knowledge, have didn't receive proper exposure or trainings, right? So he is not aware of the ideal spec, right? And the person who defined the spec could be also influenced, or it could be influenced by certain brands or certain providers out there. So it's not very transparent. So what eventually happens is that if you buy the wrong spec, you get the wrong solution installed in these certain cities, right? Well, you basically have this conversation which I designed because I personally heard of that firsthand. If you want to integrate with them, they will say to you, probably this is proprietary. And if you want to, you still insist, it would void the warranty, right? Just like buy cars and you want to install different things and your original warranty will be voided. That sort of concept, right? The second is that, well, you need to integrate with me, you need to pay me. But well, if the price is justifiable, it's still fine. But sometimes the price is so hefty, is so heavy that it is almost it's impossible for companies to work together in this way, right? Then third is that, right, it could be binded with a certain contract with a tenure of long time, of long period. So you basically cannot do anything. So this actually is a loss to the citizens. It's a loss to the person who bought that solutions in the first place, because cities grow, but your solutions is static over there, and you cannot grow in tandem with the demand of the society, right? So next slide. Next slide. Yes. So what you can do, my fellow friends and my fellow audience here, if you are keen to be part of smart cities movement, or you want to be, or you're interested in smart mobility per se, well, of course you can join us. Exxon Data, we are hiring interns. You can join us, or you can actually start to think about your own idea and start to validate by talking to the real customer out there. And one of the place that you can go to, I believe, is Magic, where they are very supportive of new, innovative ideas. Whether you are young or you are old, they welcome everyone. And yeah, you can join Accelerator to accelerate, to make your ideas into, from prototype to a product, right? And or third, of course, you can do research. Like Dr. M, he's doing research on fuzzy logics, very very interesting area of research. You can actually join researchers in their field of works. So that is how you can be contributing your effort, your time, your energy to the development of smart city in Malaysia. So next slide. So I believe this is almost the end of my slides. I thank everybody. I hope that you have gained some valuable insights from my first-hand experience deploying smart city solution in a big city, end to end, from scratch, from concept, from idea to real deployment in the real world. And I welcome you all to be part of my journey as well. We are from Just Night. I look forward to see you all again. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mac. That was so inspiring. It reminds me of my old days at the University of Oxford when taking bus to my lab, executing my last experiment 5 minutes before the last midnight bus, watching the updated bus schedule on my smartphone, where the last location of the bus, and then once they reach the last stop before, speed 100 meter to the bus station, or else I would basically have a walking down the road 15 miles. They are so sharp and precise. So if there are one key message, it is interoperability. I guess it's about time that the government as well as enterprise and also public to embrace these changes and quickly adapt to it in order to introduce a much integrated and intelligent public transport system. Right. So let's move on to our second speaker. So it just a few weeks back when the SPM result being announced and some tweets do not take engineering course, and they say engineering in Malaysia is a scam. So well, I am proud to have our Malaysian version of young technopreneur come engineer, Mr. Kennedy here as my guest speaker to prove otherwise. At such a young age, Mr. Kennedy had excellently built his own business empire, working out his passion in the engineering and robotics world, going strong by developing the first MVP or prototype of outdoor autonomous delivery robot from scratch, winning multiple awards and grants in his university time, and now co-found his own company, Hello World Robotics Sdn Bhd. Welcome to our seminar, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, we had listened to the big picture, the general concept of intelligent mobility from Mr. Max just now, where new modes of personal mobility are emerging in smart cities with the implementation of autonomous vehicle, perhaps. So Hello World Robotics, or HWR in short, has been actively involved in the design of fully autonomous self-driving technology for indoor and outdoor solutions. You yourself, I think, had embarked a journey in developing from scratch, validating the robotic technology, And I personally think that since this pandemic COVID-19 era where people have to work from home, where the restaurant and many retailers had to be closed and operated in different ways, you are given the best opportunity actually to test out your proof concept of autonomous delivery network. So, and part of your mission in your company says autonomous delivery network is the future of delivery model. Huge statement indeed. So, Mr. Ken, there are so much story, there are so much tip to share with us. So, hopefully, you can share with us how, from your experience and past observation, will this innovation, this network, autonomous delivery network work well, and how it could benefit our beloved country, Malaysia. Please let us welcome our next speaker, Mr. Kennedy Y. Chiyong. Over to you, Ken.
Hello? Okay, hello everyone. My name is Kennedy. I'm currently the founder and CEO of Hello Robotics. So thank you, Dr. Kai and MMU for having me here. Joining this webinar. And also thank you for taking the time to join today's webinar on the topic of the role of intelligent mobility in sustainable and inclusive urban development by MMU. So today I'll be using last mile delivery robots to kind of walk you through about the smart mobility and the urban smart city solution for having this fleet of robots here. So So my name is Kennedy. I am from KL, and I have more than 7 years of experience in developing delivery robots since 2014. And I'm currently responsible for software architecture design for autonomous driving at Haro Robotics. So I used to work as a robotics engineer in Shanghai, Shenzhen, and then Taiwan to build delivery robots for hotels, restaurants, and many more service robotics products. So during that time, at the early stage robotic startup, I learned a lot of, how to run a robotics company, how to build a robot, and how to commercialize the robots as well. So these are the robots that I have gotten my hands on from indoors to outdoors. But currently, we'll be focusing more on outdoor because there are still lots of problems to be solved in outdoor self-driving, and that makes us, unique compared to the others. So, Hello Robotics was actually founded in China after winning a few startup competitions about 3 years ago, and then we spent about 1.5 years building our first version of outdoor delivery robot. MVP is called TARS. So to pilot test in Dongguan City, and then we moved back to Cyberjaya to continue our development and pilot tests here in Malaysia. So yeah, so I guess all of you here may be using last mile delivery service every day, and it could be thousand millions delivery orders going on, in the world right now. So have you ever thought about there could be a way that the users ourselves can enjoy an economic on-demand delivery service, but at the same time, the platforms, restaurants, and grocery stores, they can all be sustainable and profitable more. So we all know that the demand for last mile delivery has been increasing a lot since the pandemic happened. So if you look at the cost structure in delivery, we will see that last mile is the most expensive part. And we can see many on-demand delivery platforms, they're trying to raise millions of dollars, covering the losses and covering the vouchers for users like us, but still unable to be profitable. So one of the reasons causing this is human delivery costs. So we can see the riders' behaviors, they are very unpredictable because of the incentive issues, lack of training, and they risking their lives to deliver every day. So we have Ministry of Transportation Malaysia report here saying that delivery companies involving the high number of accidents with motorcycles delivery riders. So there were about 1,600 deaths within 9 months of the MCO last year. So that makes about two-thirds of the total road deaths involving delivery riders. So as we can see during this pandemic, people have to follow SOPs to perform social distancing, to protect themselves, And we also know that there were many riots and protests for the past few years, so even before the pandemic. So in order to solve these issues, we designed a build a last mile delivery robot based on outdoor self-driving technology. So this robot can be operating in outdoor and indoor scenarios, and then moving autonomously with people around it. So with the help of sensors, the robot can also avoid the obstacles and move across the streets by detecting the status of the traffic lights. So our ultimate goal is to create an autonomous delivery network and infrastructure to deploy all kinds of delivery robots in the future. So to reduce delivery costs, emission rate, and providing a cheaper, smarter, and safer delivery solution to the delivery customers. So especially when the end users like us, we require more prime services without having interest to pay an extra fee, and robotic delivery service will be the only way to benefit the users and service provider platforms, because we actually thought a lot of possible solutions to to kind of solve the current problems of last mile delivery, and then moving from parcel stations, and then or manage a fleet of delivery riders, and then to managing a fleet of delivery robots, and then you know, we eventually found a solution that can actually solve, all the things together, which is having the low commission rate, having the low delivery fee, but to enjoy the similar quality, the quality level of this delivery service is, delivery robots is the only way that we can achieve the goals eventually. And yeah, building a robot is not like that. You can just get a laptop, go to Starbucks, and then start coding, because it requires your knowledge in mechanical, electrical, and software algorithm designs. So, an autonomous mobile robot is a machine that performs behaviors or tasks with a high degree of autonomy. So, this robot relies on autonomous navigation where there are no wires, tapes, or other navigation markers that requires. So, its a LiDAR guidance system assures precise navigation, obstacle avoidance, and human safety as well. So you can see the drive route mapping with laptop or any onboard PCs. Uh, adjustments will be enabling the fast and easy route updates and additions as well. So throughout the history of delivery robots, will be before we can see more robots in restaurants, in hotels, and even outdoors. Right now on the roads, on the public roads, that we used to see a lot of AGVs, in track or trackless robots that are working inside the factories and warehouses. But right now, since ever since the pandemic happens, we see a lot of the so-called avoid contacting delivery solutions, which is moving from the indoor delivery robots, and then to right now the outdoor delivery robots as well. So this is currently the history of delivery robots. To see how delivery robots evolve, throughout the years. So so you can see here. So this robot is currently doing uh, a delivery inside a restaurant. So it will be moving from the kitchen and then to the tables. So I guess some of the speakers or the participants, they have experienced this kind of technology before, even in Malaysia, in China, in Singapore as well. So so this kind of robot, they are currently providing the so-called contacting, avoid contacting delivery services. So without having the waiters just send the food from the kitchen and then to the tables, because all these tasks, these missions, they are just keeping repetitive and repetitive. So we need a machine. We need something that can deliver for us, every time, like 8 to 10 hours a day, and then to finish the job. So if you look at the economics of having these machines right here, so you can do some calculations that, okay, if I have a fleet of delivery robots, and then how much time I can save, and then how much cost I can save, from hiring a full-time or part-time waiters and waitress as well. And then the current status of outdoor delivery robots is, as you can see, that we have two different types of delivery robots. So one will be for the medium size, low, low low payload, and then lightweight, and then it will be more community based. So that means that they will be mostly operating within within a closed area of environment, so such as campuses and gated communities, like lender houses as well. Sorry. So you can see even outside of Malaysia, we have this the beginning of community-based delivery robots. They are just starting to apply in on campus as well. So I'm guessing that in the near future we'll be we might be having a lot of robots at MMU as well. So if you guys like about this idea and want to use this robotic delivery service, then you can just press one in the comments to let us know. So, and then the second type of delivery robot, it will be the public road based. So this type of robots, they usually will have, bigger size of the delivery robots and high volume of parcels or on-demand delivery services. But one thing that, the biggest reasons why we're not seeing this type of robots a lot on the public roads is because of infrastructure and the public acceptance level as well. And because it requires the robots to the self-driving cars type to move on the public roads and also the highway, and also inside the city, the urban cities as well. So if you can imagine if we have this kind of robots in Malaysia, and then it will be super hard to overcome the technological issues here in KL as well. Even for Cyberjaya is already it's the high it's already a limitation of having this autonomous machines operating here in Cyberjaya. So we can imagine the complexity of KL, the urban cities here in Malaysia. Then we will be, a lot of issues, a lot of things that should be solved, especially the regulation part. With these regulatory issues in Malaysia, we may not be seeing a lot of this large sizes delivery cars, but instead we will be starting to see more medium-sized and lightweight delivery robots, like how Hello Robotics is currently developing the robots on campus in gated communities as well. So these are the two types of the current status of outdoor delivery robots. So mostly the one will be community-based, and another one will be public road-based. So you can see one of the robots here that they're currently doing the delivery inside the science parks, and also in China, usually they will have a small region that allows the delivery cars to moving on the roads and then to do a pilot test as well. So this type of robot, they will not be, they will not be happening soon within this years or in the next following years, but we would take it for 10 years, for the technology to to grow gradually. And yeah, so yeah, let's move. So if you guys are planning to join this self-driving robots self-driving community, then we actually provide a robotics courses to start with a robot operating system called ROS. So this ROS thing right here is actually allowing us to to build our own robots without reinventing the wheels. So you can see we can even I do not know the sensors, I do not know the algorithms behind the sensors, but I can still get my robot moving autonomously. So this is the purpose of ROS, and also outside Malaysia, they have such a strong open source community base in overseas, but in Malaysia we don't see that a lot. So I have asked a lot of interns, a lot of engineering friends that they have been telling me that they didn't have such opportunities to learn these things in university. So we decided to provide such courses, and then to to kind of help growing the autonomous self-driving community here in Malaysia. So of course we're hiring full-time and interns. So if you can join us, then of course we'll be providing everything for free, and then we're looking forward to seeing you, joining the autonomous self-driving community, and to help grow the last mile delivery technology here in Malaysia as well. So why now? I mean, why not 10 years ago? Why not 20 years from now? Well, it's actually a combination of factors. So obviously, the industrial automation and manufacturing has been using robotics for decades, as we can see. But more recently, improvements in sensors, and thanks to things like mobile phones and video games, that they make cheaper processors, and the addition of AI capabilities combined with big data, IoT abilities, and so all this, they have converged to make robots more flexible, smarter, and more nimble and capable than the robots were before. So we're actually in a real world with last mile delivery robots, making hundreds of deliveries monthly, and this is happening today way quicker than people can ever imagine, way earlier before self-driving cars and drones. So until now, there are at least 30 cities in the US and Europe. They have kind of changed the law and given specific permissions to operate last mile delivery robots legally on the sidewalk since 2014. So we may not be seeing this a lot in Malaysia today, but only within some dedicated test sites here in Malaysia, especially in Cyberjaya and Iskandar district. But we believe we're taking this advantage of the pandemic to grow our last mile delivery technology and service from Malaysia to overseas. So we're hoping that we can bring autonomous delivery technology into the next level together, and then to become one of the top in global. So we're looking for for you guys to join this community, and also to join us as a team, and then to move all the things to the top. So thank you for listening. Yep. So that would be it for my today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ken. That was awesome. Awesome works by you and Hello World Robotic. With your fascinating robotic innovation, I believe the audience got a glimpse of how does intelligent mobility look like in the real world. Well, that is what the world looks like with an engineer.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. All right. Okay, so such an inspiration from both of our industrial experts. So I believe by now we have learned so much about intelligent mobility and be able to connect the puzzle and visualize our very own intelligent mobility concept, no matter what background you are, make it engineering background or non-technical background. Right, let's move on to our final speaker, our very own distinguished speaker, Dr. M, as he famously known. Having published several articles and journals in the field of intelligent mobility, lane detection, and vehicle safety, in particular using computer vision approach and vehicle dynamic approaches, we definitely have some exciting topic to be listened to. Dr. M, could you please share your view on what is meant by the term intelligent mobility from academic perspective? And could you also please share your view on intelligent mobility from the Malaysian perspective, the past, current, and the future? Other than this, we also like to hear from you about the major challenges faced by Malaysian at the current state of implementation of intelligent mobility. So I see some question from the public as well about this. So let me just, from Maria Binti Mayus, smart mobility sounds good, but somehow it can be difficult for society to understand that this is going to be or give convenience to us. So maybe you can touch on that as well. So lastly, we would be grateful, Dr. M, if you could share some of your recent research work in this field. Over to you, Dr. M.
Thank you, Dr. Kai. A very good morning to the moderator, Dr. Kai, and another two industrial speakers, Mr. Max Lee from Hexagon Data Sdn Bhd and Mr. Kennedy Y from Hello World Robotics Sdn Bhd. And to those who are listening to this MMU webinar series, today I will be doing a humble sharing on the role of intelligent mobility in sustainable and inclusive urban development Before I begin my sharing, I wish to take this opportunity to thank Industrial Collaborations and Engagement Center and the Center for Engineering Computational Intelligence for giving me a platform to share my thought on today's webinar topics. Next slide, please. Please allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm or you can call me Poping. I'm from Faculty of Engineering and Technology. My area of expertise is vehicle dynamics, where my research focuses on the developments of advanced driver assistance systems like automatic steering control and lane departure warning. Next slide, please. Today's webinar theme is very related to MMU mottos, which is inquire, inspire, and innovate. Due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is much uncertainty. The spread of COVID-19 has affected almost all fields of humans' life, be it in physical, emotional, and economics. For example, in Malaysia, many businesses are struggling due to the movement control order. On the another side, COVID-19 crisis has triggered a new work dynamics. For example, work from home, a new concept like mobility as a service, or in short, it is known as MAAS, new market like food delivery, the adoptions of digital wallet. All this will have profound implications for the futures of automotive industry. From all the examples given, this COVID-19 crisis maximizes the opportunity created by digital transformations, support greater agility and competitiveness, set the foundations for a more resilient future-focused mobility industry. This webinar offers unique insight into the role of intelligent mobility in sustainable and inclusive urban development. The whole idea of intelligent mobility is actually connected to MMU's motto, which is inquire, inspire, and innovate. Next slide, please. There are 4 key points that I will be discussed later, which begin with what is really about the intelligent mobility from the perspective of the economics literacy, followed by the Malaysian perspective, which including the past, current, and the futures, and followed by the challenges faced by the Malaysian in the current situations, and ended with the viewpoint in intelligent mobility and urban development. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before I proceed or begin my sharing, there is a quote from Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I hope this quote will giving us the inspirations for the future coming generations to come. Next slide, please. Intelligent mobility is about moving people and goods around in an easier and more efficient and more environmentally friendly way. It uses new idea and new technology to look beyond traditional infrastructure-heavy approach to transport and to instead come up with innovative way to improve mobility and to make journey better and accessible to all. 4 concurrent transformation teams have been explored in the study that explore the development path towards the intelligent mobility, which consists of access, demand and supply, integrations and automations, as shown on this slide. On their own, the long-term vision for each will revolutionize how we move people and goods, but they will exhibit even greater steps change when they are combined. Okay, so let's begin with the first team, the access team. The access team has the potential to deliver on many of the value space identified. In particular, access to new and different mobility modes is critical in meeting the lifestyle challenges of the progressive metropolises, default motorists, and dependent passenger. Additionally, the access team can also be a key enabler and accelerate low emissions vehicle uptake with shared vehicle services. Ownership and depreciations of the battery no longer needs to be a root user concerns, and a more seamless integrations with charging infrastructure is possible. Development within the access team include shared mobility asset, for example, car and bike sharing scheme, more multi-proposing of asset, for example, peer-to-peer car sharing or private vehicle-based freight delivery, mobility as a service where end-to-end journey are available to customer at the touch of the button. For example, the e-hailing apps and the demands responsive buses. Democratizations of mobility, customizing and personalizing elements of the mobility value chain. For example, telematics, insurance, to make them more affordable for specific route user types. And lastly, virtual mobility, removing the need to travel altogether. For example, video conferencing and goods delivery solutions. Now we move on to the second theme. In this case, the demand and supply team encompasses development that seek to balance demand and supply within transport system more effectively. This involves shifting flow to less congested routes, reducing peak demand, and reducing downtime of mobility asset with spare capacity. Currently, congestion is confined to specific route and time of day. Congestion is highly regular and concentrated in rather short time period. The goal should be to reduce this demand peak that cause crowding of public transport, delay driver, and other traveler pain point. Okay, this will ensure that existing mobility asset can be fully utilized where spare capacity is available. Matching transport demand and supply can have a significant impact to transport system, increasing flow, opening up capacity, and improving resilience. Okay, the benefit of the tackling congestions with the intelligent mobility solutions rather than traditional investment need to be demonstrated on a case-by-case basis. The demand and supply team will equally be a major contributor to the success of the access team, where the provisions of access in a cost-effective way can fundamentally change the value propositions. Okay, effective flow and capacity management will significantly contribute to the success and profitability of shared vehicle scheme and mobility on demand services. Okay, so now we move on to the next theme, the integrations team. The integrations team brings together disparate information, system, and services to provide route user with a seamless end-to-end experience within the transport network. These integrations cover three key areas, and they are informations, ticketing, and interchanges. For the purpose of this report, integration refers to the integrations between the different transport modes and operators that route user may encounter on their journeys. Integration in traffic management sense, such as the flow control through the vehicle to infrastructure communications, is considered as part of the demand and supply and automation team. Lastly, now we move on to the last team, which is the automation team. The automation team is the most dependent on technology, and the types of autonomous functions on the horizons range from increasing sophisticated driver assist features to fully autonomous drive. Drivers who use autonomous features could benefit from reduced fatigue, additional productive time, and specific use case benefits such as automated valet parking, not to mention the increased safety of autonomous drive technology. A shift in operating costs, for example, the driver salary and the insurance, is conceivable as wow for transport service operator. If they adopt fully autonomous vehicle, okay, when sufficient penetration is reached, there is a significant opportunity to boost overall transport efficiency with the autonomous V2V, in this case, vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure communications, which will deliver faster flow and greater capacity. Okay, So that's my definition for the intelligent mobility. So let's move on to the next slide. So for the Malaysian perspective, okay, so allow me to start from the bottom left of the slide. In the year of 1980, there are 4 common steps of the transport begin use, okay? So majorly car is used to, to transport people, okay? Buses is also used to transport the people, same goes to the bike and the train as well. So each of the transport serving their original purposes, okay? As we proceed to the current year 2020, most of the mode of the transport has been enhanced in terms of their services. We take the examples of the e-hailing car, okay, and the courier services using the big truck, okay. And in terms of the bike, the services such as food delivery are begin observed day by day, okay. And same goes to the LRT is being used by the people to move from one place to another place. So in terms of the future perspective for the Malaysia, this is my predictions. It could prove I can be wrong in this case, but still it's just a prediction. In year 2035, okay, pure electric vehicle will become a norm on the route. Pure electric vehicle here stands for the 100% electric vehicle. Since we are in the era of the transitions from the naturally aspirated power plants vehicle to the totally electrical vehicle. So most of the vehicle manufacturer has launching or releasing the so-called the hybrid car, the plug-in hybrid vehicles. So we are in the transition period towards the realizations of the totally or 100% electric car. So from my point of view, this is possible, okay? Now followed by the second, the drone delivery in year 2035. If I'm not mistaken, recently Malaysia government has started preliminary works in conducting the study whether this drone delivery can be kind of future-proof services offered to the consumer. So based on my takes on this, I think that this is possible because for drone delivery as compared to the ground vehicle, drone usually will encounter lesser obstacle as compared to the ground vehicle. So I will foresee that drone delivery will become one of the services begin offered by the year 2035. And next, the high-speed rail in year 2035. We know that most of the Malaysians are disappointed because of the government has cancelled the high-speed rail projects, okay? But still in the developing country towards the first world country, we need to have forms of transport that can move the people at the faster rate, in this case, in the terms of the speed, in this case. So the traveling time to be taken from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur city to Johor Bahru city, maybe it can be lesser. So people can use that time for other productivity works. And lastly, the 6G communications, okay? So 6G, I believe that most of the country, especially those countries are developing or the pioneering country that are starting developing the 6G communications. We are in the stage of R&D, research and development. So in future, by year 2035, I think this is also will happen for sure by the time we reach 2035. And we cannot deny that the 6G communications will provide us a seamless integration with the cloud-based services, because by that time, data will be getting bigger and we need to transmit the data in the shortest time. Hence comes the 6G technology. Okay, so let's move to the next slide, please. In terms of the challenges faced by the Malaysia, okay, in the current situation, the most the main challenges will be in terms of the populations against the number of units of the transport on the road. In this case, I refer to the private transportations. Okay, so based on the study in year 2019, we have about 32.6 million populations against 31.2 billion units of the private transport in this case, in combination with bike, buses, and the vehicles. So it will create a problem to our society. For example, the congestion issue. So my take on this will be the government should start thinking a way to regulate the number of cars on the road. Okay, and one of the examples that we can use is like the Singapore country and the Japan country. The car can be used for the maximum lifespan of 5 years, and after that it will be scrapped. Okay, so this will be one of the possible solutions in regulating the numbers of the transport on the road. Okay, and secondly, the second challenges will be the CO2 emissions, as the number of the public transport or the private transport are on the route. Hence, the issue of the CO2 still become the main issue, especially when we talk about the climate issue over here. So, same goes to what I'm saying just now. It is best to ensure that the old car or old forms of the transportations begin to scrap and replace or renew with the more fuel efficient type of the vehicle. And when we talk about the CO2 emissions, we shall not forget about those motorbike who are still using the two-stroke cycle engines, because two-stroke cycle engine is more prone to adjusting the unburned fuel to the environment, which is very harmful to the people. Okay, so I urge the government working hand to hand with industry to ensure, or at least try to regulate the number of those bikes still are using the two-stroke engines. Okay, and the coming challenges, the third challenges is the adequate public transport availability, accessibility, and services. Private vehicles today have become the means of travel of urban living in developing country. Consistent economic growth, rising income, and urbanizations have led to rapid growth in vehicle ownership and usage. Hence, the air pollution and other environmental hazards are another important concerns over here. So when we talk about the adequacy of the public transport availability, I'm talking about the mode of transport in transporting the people and goods from one city to another city. So we are still lacking of those proper transportations with seamless integrations with the technology coming from the intelligence mobility. And lastly, the last challenge over here will be the lack of the smart city infrastructures. as highlighted by the industrial speaker, Mr. Kennedy Wine. Okay, so the city like Kuala Lumpur is actually facing one of the problem where when we want to implement the autonomous vehicle, we faces the challenge of putting the autonomous vehicle in the big city like KL. Okay, so we take the example, for example, how are we going to expect the transportations, okay, where it use the conventional way of driving as compared to the autonomous. So there will be it will create a lot of problem to the society. So in this case, my take on this will be the government needs to think a way how to find a new city which is totally starting from scratch to developing those features that are in align with the intelligence mobility. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide.
Sorry, Dr. M, we're currently running out of time. So
Yes.
do you mind to continue your presentation? Maybe perhaps
Yeah, noted.
even later.
Yeah, noted.
Right.
Thank you.
So we have a couple of questions from online audience. So I would like to pick the first question from Zian Lim, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yes.
Any effect on COVID-19 pandemic on public transport? So maybe 2 minutes for perhaps maybe Dr. M to wrap up your conclusion with this question.
Yes, yeah, thank you for the questions. Yes, for my observations during the COVID-19 pandemics, the user, especially the consumers, are starting to rely on the mobility as services. So when they are started to ordering the food, so they can just use the availability of the apps provided in the apps. So this is by another means will enhance further the integrations of the intelligent mobility in this case. So not only that, it will also fasten the progress towards the realizations of the intelligence mobility.
Right, thanks, Dr. M. Maybe Max has something to say about COVID-19 because he's basically delivered just at night. So perhaps some comments from Mr. Max?
Okay, thank you. Yes, COVID definitely causes a drastic drop in ridership. We saw that 80% drop, I think, as announced by Rapid company. And Rapid is the only one available in Klang Valley and also Kuantan, Penang, right? But those other cities, smaller cities or suburbs, right, they are operated by other operators. Some, they are actually required by government to still operate their service level. So for example, like company in Perak, there's one bus company in Perak, they are required by their, by APAT, this agency, APAT is basically Agency Pengangkutan Awam Darat. They are required by the grant provisions to actually run the services despite the pandemic. And in my own opinion, I think that public transport, just like waste transportation, it will never be dismissed, even with the coming of pandemic, because people still have to travel, people still have to throw their waste, just like you still have to eat your food. So you still have to travel. And I guess pandemics will also cause more and more people not able to afford expensive travel options. So they will either use much more active transport like bicycling, walking, or they would actually take public transport. So it will never go away. But what is more important is that while taking public transport, we all need to observe the rules set by our government. And that also means that tracking is very important. And I think that at this time, this is the best time for big and small bus companies to transform themselves by adopting digitization. And that's what we are currently helping our bus companies throughout Malaysia to transform themselves. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mac. So we are currently running out of time, but perhaps I can pick one more last question for Mr. Kennedy from Jolene T. Are Malaysia shift focus to electric vehicle EV? What are the main challenges to have EV in the market? So, Mr. Kennedy, if you can comment on that question.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you for your comment. I guess for EV market, because our delivery robots are also operating, fully electric, and I guess for EV market, the current challenges that we have in Malaysia is because we produce a lot of gasoline, and then we have gasoline cars, and also to be honest, we are not moving as fast as our neighbor countries in Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. I'm guessing that the first challenge that we're currently facing right now is we have a lot of companies involving the gasoline, the gas, and the gasoline industries, and then it might be very difficult for us to actually move from gasoline cars and then to fully electric cars. But we'll be seeing a lot of more and more electric cars, electric vehicles, even for the robots, for the self-driving cars in the recent years, because I believe the government is currently taking some actions that actually to have the policies to import more electric vehicles manufacturers, like I'm hoping that Tesla will be in Malaysia soon. And yeah, I think the second challenge for Malaysia's EV market is we do not have a lot of charging spots and charging stations here. We do have a few in Cyberjaya, but not a lot, because so for example, in Shanghai, they actually even just for Tesla itself, they already have like 5 to 6,000 charging stations here only in Shanghai, with the populations of 2.24 million people. I'm guessing that the first two things that we need to work on is the policies and also the charging stations, because without the policy supporting the EV manufacturers and also the charging stations for the users, I don't think our nation, Malaysian people, will actually buy this electric vehicles. I mean, I don't have, I cannot charge my car even I park my car downstairs, uh, downstairs at the apartment, and then we do not have enough charging stations. I guess is egg and chicken and egg question, which is we need to have the users, and then so that we build more charging stations, or we need more charging stations so that we can build a market. But I guess the manufacturers and the government, they have to be the first to do to such actions so that we can grow the EV market here in Malaysia. Yeah. So these are the main two challenges that we're facing here in Malaysia for EV market.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Ken. Well, guys, we are finally near the end of this webinar. So I strongly believe that we have a very resourceful 1 hour and 15 minutes today, plus. So in short, as a closing remark, I think intelligent mobility promise true convenience using whatever mode of transportation that best suits a traveler. The option for implementing smart mobility are as varied as ice cream flavors, leaving local council authorities and industrial players lots of room to find solutions tailored to their residents. So last question to wrap up on our webinar session today, a minute maximum for each speaker. With all the advancement that we have in the seminar today that we have discussed, let us all know your take-home message in one paragraph. How you imagine, how you hope Malaysia in 10 years' time. Mr. Ken.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, what was the question?
A paragraph, a very short one. What is your hope and how you imagine Malaysia in 10 years' time?
Okay, so Malaysia, I guess we'll be seeing a lot of companies doing robotics products, as we can already see here, here during the pandemic. And I I'm guessing that we'll be having more electric vehicles manufacturers, and then also the charging stations providers, service providers, and also the robotics companies in the next 10 years. Because I think we cannot avoid the fact that the world is currently moving forward to Industrial 4.0. But although Industrial 4.0 is not just about robotics, but robotics is actually one of the factors that we have to move from current status of the uh, industrial level and then to the next level. So I guess that we will be having a lot of people, a lot of companies joining this market, and then of course we'll be seeing more robots, especially delivery robots or even drones operating on campus especially in urban cities, and then we'll be starting to see more self-driving cars testing on the roads as well. So for the next 10 years, I'm quite excited for what Malaysian companies can achieve. Yeah.
Yep, great. Ken, Dr. M?
Thank you, moderator. My take on this will be the industry should be working hand in hand with the higher education, and at the same time, the government should play an important role in regulating the policy and the rules for the public transport. Because in order for us to realize the intelligence mobility, the government always comes first. Once the government making the rules right and policy right, then the industrial player, and same goes with the higher institutions, will come hand in hand to realize the intelligence mobility in this case. Thank you.
Last but not least, Mr. Max.
Okay, so everybody just watch at the trend and work together hand in hand with the industry, with the enterprises, and even beyond Malaysia itself. I believe if we can do that, and our government is laying the right policy and the infrastructures, as Dr. M mentioned, I think we will do well in together with the rest of the countries in the region itself.
Right, thank you. Let us all again thanking our panelists, Mr. Max of Hexen Data, Mr. Kennedy of Hello World Robotics, and Dr. M of FET MMU for their insightful story, tips, and sharing today. Let me also thank various parties who have made this seminar possible. In particular, Dr. Noor Azlina Abdulaziz, the chairperson of Center for Engineering Computational Intelligence, Chechi Faculty of Engineering and Technology, MMU, and his teams who work hard behind the scene. The organizer of this webinar, the Industrial Collaboration and Engagement Center, ICEC, and Research Industrial Collaboration and Engagement, RICE Division. Also, Strategic Marketing, Admission and Recruitment, Smart Division of MMU, MMU Studio, and the technical support team for making this webinar conducted smoothly. And last but not least, the most important one, you, the audience. Thanks for all who attended the seminar until the very end. Every one of us, stay home, take care, and stay safe. Have a nice day. See you again. Thank you very much. So last but not least, please watch the video promotion by our MMU studio. Thank you.